श्रीमात्रे नमः। ओम गंगणपतये नमः। The great sage Patanjali gave us a boon in the form of Yoga Shastra. That's why we used to call Patanjali Yoga Shastra. Yoga Shastra gives us lots of benefits and to put our mind and body in a comfortable stage. It will be sound body and sound mind. In this regard, Yoga Shastra tells us how to maintain the fitness of the body and its mind. Both are the most important to lead blissful or happiest life in the world. Yoga means it's a combination between mind and body. If he who controls the senses can attain blissfulness in his life. Yoga Shastra is one of the ancient Shastra. Not it is established now itself. There is lots of disciplinary acts in Yoga Shastra. Each and every asanas has its own benefits and its own credits. Yogasanas give us a sort of flexibility to the body and peace of mind. Next stage when you go in Yoga Shastra, it called pranayama, mean a deep meditation, by which we can get peacefulness through observing or performing pranayama. Those things are deliberately described in Patanjali Yoga Shastra. But what I mean today is yoga not only for men, it is also for women. So many seers, female seers, observed Yoga Shastra, followed Yoga Shastra, attained the fame and name. In this regard, the present work we are taking, yoga and women, how far it is worthwhile, what is the need in this way, all these questions arise in our mind. We have to get answers while analyzing it in detailed manner. The main themes of the Patanjali Yoga Sutra reappear in later texts that elaborate the practice of yoga. Therefore, we have to understand the value of Yoga Shastra. Patanjali Yoga Sutras called as classical yoga, not an ordinary one. Yoga as a doctrine is Patanjali's Yoga Sutra. Think it, how Yoga Shastra is meant not only for the men, even for women. Ancient classical yoga and status of yoginis, that means from the past to the present, the status of yoga towards women to be discussed by us today. Because of these details, we can come across about the values of Yoga Shastra to all the beings, especially human beings. Let's go through this in detail. prayer. Yogena chittasya padena vacham malam sharirasya cha vaidyakena yopakarotamam pravaram muninam patanjalim pranjaliranatosmi. The present work is the result of an honest inquiry into the positioning of women in yoga, both in the past and in the present, concerning historical and social developments, while considering their implications on the yoga discipline and on female practitioners likewise. Yoga has its ancient roots in Hindu scriptures, and yet it is ever so popular in today's culture. Assuming that the ancient yoga and the current expression of yoga is the same would be the naive. In today's world, yoga appears to be everywhere, every part, every nook and corner of the world. Good for everything and suitable for everyone. When people say that, do yoga, they usually refer to a form of physical discipline or exercise practice that has an ability to heal, to make you more fit and enhance your lifespan, self-acceptance, and notably, it is not only an exercise but more. That can imply a deeper connection between body and soul, or more. That can imply a deeper connection between body and mind. More commonly known, the body-mind universe unity that could be achieved by the discipline. However, this is not main reason people are practicing yoga. Usually there are more desirable side effects in yoga, such as de-stressing, weight loss, ability to focus, improvement of creativity, loss of physical pain, etc. can be gained through yoga. Yoga originated in ancient India as one of the 6 disciplines as darshana, Shad Darshana. As Gerald Lesson, Professor Emeritus in the Department of Religious Studies at Indiana University and one of today's notable experts on Sankhya Yoga philosophy, explains, yoga is as old or older than recorded history. Its origins, for the most part, in the antiquity of Central, Western, and South Asia. In order to say that yoga has evolved, an assumption of origin is needed. But when looking closely at the subject, it appears impossible. Every era had its own yoga practice, and to speak of a true or a pure form of yoga versus a fake or a contaminated form of yoga would be our simplifying the case. It appears obvious that yoga cannot be isolated from cultural influences through the yoga practices wishes to diminish the outer influences on the practitioner. It is impossible that it did not do so with itself. So, we could note that yoga originated in India under the philosophies of Samkhya, Vedanta, and religious beliefs, and that the goal of the yogic practice throughout the known texts was to seek emancipation. As will be shown later on, the multiple religions of India and the social enhances have affected the way the practice of yoga was understood. The aim of yoga is to diminish ignorance, avidya, which covers our true self. That self is said to be unbound by earthly criteria such as time and space, but also age, gender, and social status. The practice of yoga aims to remove this ignorance, free the practitioner from pain and suffering caused by the illusionary understanding of the false self, and emancipate with the power of true realization. The practice of yoga has inevitably and evidently changed. While in an ancient India, yoga was taught on a one way by one format, nowadays it is practiced in stuffed rooms where one teacher teaches many. With the innovation of print and technology, it has become possible to practice yoga out of the book, a DVD, or a YouTube video. This made yoga very accessible and widespread. Through same might argue that the price was the loss of authenticity and commercialization. While nowadays the majority of practitioners, at least in the West, it is assumed by scholars that yoga was practiced, taught, and written by the men and for men. Most of the yoga books written in English are written by women, and the majority of the customers and the readers of these books are women. The gap between these dichotomies requires a better understanding of how yoga evolved to be what it is today. The first part of this paper will be a short summary of the ancient root of the participant of yoga. Since it is impossible to cover more than 2000 years of evolving phenomenon, two influential and widely circulated texts will be discussed. Patanjali's Yoga Sutras of and Swatamara's Hatha Yoga Pradika, though separated by millennia and differing in metaphysical paradigm. These two texts share what has become to be known as the essentials of the practice, the Ashtanga Yoga, possibly reconstructed as such by Western Orientalist Indologists. These texts are regarded by Indian Western Yoga teachers as the most important text in the history of yoga. The question of women of yoga, the question can be discussed regarding these texts according to the textual and historical data, alongside a feminist assumption that women were a part of history, even if they were not mentioned directly in male-centric texts. The second part will discuss the main promoters of yoga. Mainly Indians are totally in different ways. They used to think. Yoga is considered one of the best methods in the worldwide. These advocates of yoga acted under colonial rule and an Orientalist lens, while some were part of politician or independence movements, others included with Western philosophy. Yet others were influenced by Western science and medicine. In order to destroy better the reconstruction of the syncretized form of yoga in India, one must not outward look the social political influence of 2 decades of a cultural and ideological together with political and economical uh, colonization. Most importantly, simultaneously with the reports in women's rights, this was a time when yoga was democratized and secularized, and this became inclusive towards women. These newly highlighted features were the ones to give way to the modern form of yoga known to us today. The last part will debate the expressions of yoga in the Western world. You can get the detailed description through this. The aims of yoga practice, the yoga industry, the yoga body, and the feminist potential of yoga will be discussed. Since the democratization of yoga has been breached under the shadow of the communication, it has become a tool of enslavement rather than the instrument of ultimate emancipation. Now, 14th point. Ancient classical yoga and Sutra of Yoginis. The element of material evidence of yoga is thought to be the Pasupati seal, dated to 2500 BC, while the first textual evidence can be found in Rigveda, dated to the 15th century BC. Though little is known about the society of the time, it is probable to suggest that women were a part of spiritual life. According to anthropology, findings of the true, as that case was Jamaica, who was on the faculty of California's noted yoga research and education centers, explain women's inclusion in rituals was considered because it is a plain note like abundance of time should be mentioned used for this purpose. However, the female scholars, teachers, mystics, priestesses, and also philosophers, and as many as 27 female sages, these practitioners of yoga, according or acknowledging to the certain between the human nature and the divine nature through sacrifices. Later texts dates to the 5th century BC mention in yoga more elaborately. Among these are the Upanishads, first Katha Shvetashvara Upanishad, Maitreya Upanishad, and the Mahabharata, where yoga appears as the methods of gaining liberation from the bonds of this world. For example, moksha. These texts are Makkah, and in the mentioned a handful of wise spiritual women. A definition of the detailed description of yoga is thus described. Among these women can be found the intellectual renunciate Sulabha, who agrees or argues with King Janaka that women are all able to achieve liberation by the same means as men and recognize this true self, that is called Atman, that is not a real difference between men and women. Another is Guruji expressed his own views. Gargi, who depends with the wise Yajnavalkya and almost defeats him, but is gained her golden bangle back. Maitreyi, the wife of Yajnavalkya, is said to be knower of God and is inherited a spiritual life and knowledge above all other things. The text mentioned above are the pre-modern forms of yoga. According to the D. Macalis, formerly a professor at the University of Cambridge and University of Oxford, Divinity Theology faculties, pre-modern forms of yoga will be found to be more synthetically yoga as a doctrine stable simply because the practical and theoretical implications of their axiomatic ideas have been cultivated, rationalized, and recorded for at least 2.5 millennia is systematic, uninterrupted, cumulative, and broadly speaking, logical, coherent fashion. This definition of pre-modern forms of yoga stands in contrast to modern form of yoga that evolved later, such as Patanjali's Yoga Sutra that are regarded as the classical yoga. So, Patanjali Yoga Sutras as classical yoga, the first celebrated the text about yoga as a doctrine is Patanjali's Yoga Sutra, dated to the 2nd and 4th century AD. It is regarded by some scholars, most yoga teachers and practitioners as the ultimate symbol of classical yoga. According to Mark Singleton, the researcher of the modern yoga at the Faculty of Divinity University of Cambridge, the term is a post no regard gratifying onto the perceived Patanjali about tradition, as it was constituted through Orientalist scholarship and modern Indian yoga renaissance rather than as historical indications of the ancient roots of a dynamic postal system called Ashtanga Yoga. Aside from that, in addition, Singleton argues that colonial translated was held by the human race. It argues that colonial themselves projects intended to inculcate the critical habits and values of European philosophy and Indian minds via Hindu scripture, pure and subsequent reclamations of these by Indian cultural naturalists seeking to identify and interpret the definite end. Aside from that, Singleton claims that the text was not authoritative for most yoga systems, nor a functional practice tradition. Similarly, Lieberman Kenneth, professor of religious studies at the University of Oregon, claims that the first Europeans that studied yoga were primarily interested in its philosophy and have learned it from the Brahmins in the 19th and 20th century. The first widely circulated translation to English was by an American for Americans. Theosophical William Quan George interpreted the Yoga Sutras in 1889 by the New York Theosophical imprints and uninterrupted it to Western minds unfamiliar with the Hindu modes of expression and equally unaccustomed to their philosophy and logic. Moreover, according to the Singleton, The notion of the classical, endorsed and reinforced by the European intelligentsia, was used as a foundation and authority for the seeking of the established to clear, identify, and a sense of productions. Finally, the professors at the University of Lausanne argues that the Yoga Sutra was associated with a variety of different philosophies rather than an origin of an anthropologist or an independent yoga traditionist. Though it is likely that the Yoga Sutras are not a textual evidence of the original yoga, it is considered as such by yoga teachers and practitioners in the 21st century and has been an influential text in the development of modern age. As such, understanding the main themes they might explain the phenomena of yoga in later times. Learning the yoga presented in the text is defined as a body-mind technique that aims to connect us with our own true mantras by silencing in the mind and releasing the sound in the world and of the ourselves that inevitably cause codes that can be achieved well. The practice of yoga is composed of 8 limbs, mean 8 parts. Who are they? What are they? Yama, the moral codes. Niyama, mean conducts. Asana, postures. Pranayama, breath or vital energy control, mean vital energy control. Pratyahara, withdrawal of senses. Dharana, concentration. Dhyana, meditation. Samadhi, enlightenment. These parts appear again and again in later yogic texts and are known today as yoga teachers and evoluted practitioners of yoga. Among these components of yoga, a closer look should be given to the moral. It is considered such as refer to celibacy or sexual control. Brahmacharya, example. It is possible that in the Vedic tradition discussed briefly about women were free to study and become a brahmacharin. But according to scholars that rely on Vyasa's interpretation on the sutras, the term in this text refers to male celibacy. The present or preservation of silence men, especially the doctrine or detachment from when doctrine Vairagain, the male feature of this Yoga Shastra. Another interesting aspect is the practice of pranava, mean Omkara. The pronunciation of the syllable according to the Catherine K. Young, professor of religious studies, again the McGill University, the practice was linked to the study of the Vedas and thus was ineligible for women. Furthermore, she argues that women have not been able to pursue asceticism in conservative circles. On the other hand, the Jaminian, who is the root cause of bringing yoga into limelight. Since the yogic millennium probably did not account for conservative circles, it is impossible that women were practicing the pranava as prescribed by Patanjali. The inclusiveness of women in the Vedic era was replaced by a patriarchal Brahmanical era, which was expressed in the laws of Manu. Manadharma Shastra, compiled around 200 BC. Sorry, women and men. The difference can be found in Yoga Shastra. Women were ascribed to be householders, Stri Dharma, unlike men who were supposed to learn prior to their marriage and leave the house in pursuit of the spiritual life in the forest, like a Vanaprastha. Another approach to this subject is of metaphysical gendered dichotomy, mean difference, while the true self, Purusha, is considered to be the masculine, the material world, the elusive mind is considered to be feminine. Though these statements are not conclusive, they can contribute to the speculation of exclusion of women from yogic practice, etc. It is a time of Patanjali. However, it is speculated by scholars today that these laws were not accepted and practiced all over India, especially not by the South Indian Dravidian population, nor by nature and lower caste population. Moreover, it is suggested that these laws were enshrined as a definitive Hindu law by Brahmana men in British colonial code. So, in the lack of the regal law codex of the time, it appears presumptions to determine whether women were excluded from yogic practices. The main themes of the Patanjali Yoga Sutra reappear in the later text. Yoga can elaborate the practice. It is probable that the authors of these texts did not see themselves as a continue of Patanjali's tradition, but still included the Adhrushtami Yoga. For example, the yoga, these subjects or objects. The most famous and influential is found in the 15th century. Swatna Rama Sata Yoga Pradipika. Om Shri Kantai Kalyana Nidhenam Shri Venkatnivasaya Srivasaya Mangalam Mangalasasabhay Vadacharya Puragame Sarvesha Urvairacharya Satkృతాయాస్తు Mangalam.